Did you know that 40% of our elected MPs, the members of parliament, have declared criminal cases against them? And by the way, these are just declared criminal cases. The number could be even higher. India doesn't respect character, it respects power. We don't ask if this person is ethical or not. We just want to know how powerful that person is. Here, dominance rises faster than decency. The powerful and wealthy, no matter what crimes they commit, always walk free. It's like they spit in our faces. In this country, even the people who are accused of the worst of crimes keep their status. Here, reputation matters way more than reality. We don't just tolerate power, we encourage it. We protect it. This mindset is making us anxious, angry, divided. From childhood, this idea has been hammered into our heads that authority is unquestionable. Parents, teachers, principals, elders, extended relatives, bosses, government officials, the uniform, the title, the chair. We don't challenge any of these people. We obey them. And over time, our brain starts to associate authority with correctness. I want to talk about something called as the power distance index. Do you know what that is? It is the degree to which a society accepts power inequality. In high power distance cultures, hierarchy feels normal, sometimes even necessary. And on that scale, India stands at a whopping 77. That number is high, really high. So what does that mean? It just means that we don't care about ethics or morals at all. And our respect just depends on how influential that person is. We instinctively ask, what position do they hold? Then comes our schooling system. In Indian classrooms, questioning your teacher is often considered to be disrespectful. It is never considered as intellectual curiosity. Memorization is rewarded with marks, compliance is praised, and obedience is safe. In this country, you don't rise to the top by questioning authority. Instead, you rise to the top by navigating it. By participating in this game, over 250 million students pass through the system. This is not just schooling, this is psychological brainwashing. You're not being shaped to evaluate moral reasoning. You're being shaped to survive hierarchy. Now zoom out. For centuries, power in India has flown vertically. Kings, scholars, empires, colonial administration, bureaucratic layers, centralized systems. Where power decides survival, it commands respect. And that survival instinct lingers, even today. Notice whenever somebody powerful enters a room, you notice immediate changes. Your tone changes, your posture changes, your body language shifts, your energy shifts. Now imagine another person with integrity walks into the same room. What do you think is going to happen? Now remember, this person doesn't hold any power. Nobody gives a crap about such a person. Without status, nothing changes, nothing shifts. This is what we call cultural wiring. We don't just respect power, we emotionally gravitate towards it. There's enough research showing that in high power distance societies, people are more likely to defer to authority, even when the authority figure in question is wrong. If somebody is wealthy, politically connected, famous or influential, the hierarchy itself creates legitimacy of its own kind. It is almost automatic. When a society conditions people to link authority with correctness, something else happens. Independent thinkers become disruptive. Because if any kind of truth came from a normal person who doesn't hold any power, the hierarchy structure gets disturbed. It gets shaken. The hierarchy itself becomes unstable. So subconsciously, we dismiss them. We call them arrogant, we call them disrespectful, we call them immature, rebellious. You can think of many words like these. People just think that it's safer to simply believe that power equals legitimacy, that power equals wisdom. This isn't about blaming individuals, it's simply about recognizing a pattern. When obedience is rewarded since childhood, authority is rarely challenged. When status commands attention before substance does, character slowly becomes secondary. And once that foundation has been laid, everything about our society starts to make sense. Why aggression gets admired, why status gets defended, why influence overrides integrity. You see, if we were trained this way, then maybe the corrupt leaders aren't the problem. Maybe it's what we were taught to admire in the first place. Now let me ask you something honestly. What do you think will happen if a powerful person enters a room? Like maybe a politician, or a billionaire, a senior bureaucrat, or even your own office boss. What changes? Your tone changes, your posture changes, the way you speak changes. Now ask yourself this, what warrants such a change? Did their character change the room, or did their power change the room? As I said, this isn't random behavior, this is cultural conditioning. Now let's delve deeper into something that I mentioned before, the power distance index. This measures how much a society is comfortable with power inequality. India scores a whopping 77 on that scale. That means that we don't challenge authority or power, we just adjust to it. In such cultures, we accept decisions from authority figures even if we feel that these decisions were wrong. Research from Indian workplace studies shows that hierarchical culture can weaken accountability. Whenever somebody powerful makes a questionable decision, nobody has the guts to question it. People hesitate to confront it. And this is not because they're stupid. This is because this is how the structure works. This is how the system works. Look at corruption perception. We all know that there's rampant corruption in this country. It's everywhere. We can see it, right? We have all the funds in the world, yet we know the state of our roads, our bridges, our trains, our buses. Their condition is subpar. India's score on the Transparency International Corruption Perceptions Index sits in the high 30s out of 100. This means that we are one of the most corrupt countries on the planet. Yet at the same time, surveys like the Edelman Trust Barometer shows relatively high levels of trust in institutions in India compared to many other countries. Think about that contradiction. We suspect corruption, yet we still respect authority. And this has been going on since our independence, since 1947. This is not a new thing. It means the status can survive here even if integrity is questioned. Now let's bring this down to everyday scenarios, like say our schools and colleges. Let's imagine a teacher unjustly humiliates a student in a classroom. What do you think is going to happen? Is anybody going to confront that? Obviously not, because if they do that, they're going to be on the radar of that teacher and they'll probably get punished for that. So most students stay quiet. Why? Because challenging authority feels more dangerous than enduring justice. In offices, if a senior manager behaves arrogantly, treats people unfairly, is anybody going to call that out? Again, obviously not. Sure, people will complain privately about that. But in person, everybody stays quiet. Because everybody wants promotions. Everybody wants to climb that corporate ladder, am I right? And I don't blame them. Because it affects their access to opportunities. So, all of us, we start to believe that being quiet, being in our lane, being subservient, and being obedient is safe. Power protects itself. And if you want safety, you align with power. You don't act as resistance to it. Now, because of subservient behavior like this, independent voices start to feel irritating. If someone without status speaks uncomfortable truths, we don't evaluate their arguments first. The first thing we ask is, who is he? Does he hold any power? Does he hold any authority? What has he achieved? Why is he talking? But if somebody with status and power says the same thing, everybody believes it. They're not in agreement. This is not logic. This is conditioning. To survive in a hierarchical society like ours, people need to adapt. But the side effect of this adaptation is dangerous. Now, because of attitude like this, character becomes optional and influence becomes everything. Because once power itself commands respect, integrity becomes optional. And that is how you get corrupt leaders. And not just corrupt leaders. You get an entire culture that is subservient to corrupt leaders. So the real question isn't, why are powerful people unethical? The deeper question is, why do we keep treating power as proof of virtue? If hierarchy is deeply embedded in how we think, then maybe we're not just living inside power structures. Maybe we like it. Maybe we prefer this. And not just that, I think maybe we're emotionally attached to these power structures. Now let's talk about something that we all understand. Respect, reputation, image. In India, protecting your image, protecting your reputation is much more important than protecting your integrity. And you get to see this everywhere. Families will hide abuse to protect reputation all the time. Companies will bury their mistakes to protect their brand image. Politicians will deny obvious failures to protect their credibility. Because losing face is worse than being wrong here. We grow up hearing one sentence. Log kya kahenge? Now notice what this question is about. It's not about if you're right. It's not if you're ethical or not. It's about, how does this look? There's research in social psychology that shows societies with strong honor or reputation cultures place enormous value on social standing. That's why public perception becomes currency. In these cultures, shame isn't about violating your own moral codes. It's simply about being exposed. If morality is internal, you correct yourself. If morality is social, you adjust appearances. And when appearances matter most, power becomes the ultimate shield. Because powerful people control narratives. To understand this, you need to look at how quickly people jump to defend influential people. The moment a powerful figure is accused of wrongdoing, what happens? Instead of asking, did this happen? We ask, why would someone target him? He has done so much. Don't defame the country. You see, the defense mechanism activates instantly. Attacking them feels like attacking the image we're attached to. Now zoom into everyday life. A wealthy family with status gets social respect, even if everybody knows that they treat people poorly. Whereas a humble, ethical person without influence, they're just nice, but they don't command space. That's the difference. One gets deference and the other gets polite tolerance. And our social media has amplified this. Follow account now equals credibility. Blue ticks equal legitimacy. Visibility equals authority. We don't ask, is this person consistent? We simply ask, how many people follow him? Earlier, power used to be land, position, wealth, bureaucracy. Now, it's reach. But the psychology is pretty much the same. Status first and character later. When a society prioritizes reputation over reality, people learn to perform virtue instead of practicing it. They say the right things publicly, they post the right slogans, they even align with the right trends. But privately, nothing changes. Because the goal here isn't transformation or change, it's just managing public perception. And if you think about it, this connects directly to power distance. If hierarchy forces us to respect position, and reputation culture trains us to protect image, then powerful people with strong public images become almost untouchable. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever stayed silent about something wrong? Not because you didn't care, but because you were worried about what it would do to your public image. I think you know the answer. That is how deep this rot runs. And it's not just about politicians or public figures. It runs in our families too. It runs in our offices, in our friend groups. We don't just respect power. We actively and aggressively defend it. Because challenging it results in social instability. And in a culture where belonging matters way too much, the risk feels too high. Now let's observe something honestly. Whom do you think rises to the top in our country? The calm, ethical, soft-spoken person, or the confident, dominant, slightly intimidating one? In many workplaces, the loudest voice gets heard first. The most assertive person in our lives gets labeled as leadership material. The one who negotiates aggressively is considered as smart. Meanwhile, the ethical, cooperative, and calm person is just nice. And nice rarely gets translated to power. There's actual research backing this. Studies in organizational psychology consistently show that assertiveness is strongly associated with leadership potential. People here equate confidence with capability, even if the confidence is exaggerated as In fact, research published in journals like Journal of Personality and Social Psychology has shown that overconfident individuals are often perceived as more competent than they actually are. Confidence kind of creates a halo around your head. Now place all of this into a high power distance country like India. It multiplies because hierarchy here matters more than people's lives. Visible dominance is a sign of accepted authority. Look at politics. According to data from the Association for Democratic Reforms, ADR, a significant percentage of elected MPs in India have disclosed criminal charges against them. It was at 40% in the 2019 Lok Sabha election. 40%. Now these are disclosed cases. The number could be even higher. Now you need to ask yourself this. If this is the case, why do people keep voting for such people? Because power signals strength. Strength signals protection. And protection earns loyalty. Here, character becomes secondary to perceived dominance. This pattern isn't limited to just politics. You can see this in corporate India as well. A LinkedIn Global Talent Trends report found that many employees associate leadership potential with decisiveness and assertiveness, far more than empathy or fairness. Even though multiple global studies show that empathetic leaders actually improve long-term team performance. But short-term, dominance looks impressive. Empathy? It looks soft. And that is our worst cultural trap. When a society already respects hierarchy and also values reputation, dominance becomes the easiest way to climb the ladder. If you speak aggressively, you're considered as bold. So, what do ambitious people learn? They learn aggressiveness, dominance, cold-heartedness. Think about school debates, public speeches. Who wins? Who leaves an impact? The one who shows dominance, even if their argument is shallow. Think about family discussions. The elder who raises their voice often ends the conversation, not because they're right, but because they have the guts to be louder. Now think about corporate meetings. The person who interrupts and takes control of the room is often seen as proactive. This isn't accidental, it's a system that subtly rewards visible dominance. When dominance becomes the path to respect, ethical people face a dilemma: stay decent and risk invisibility, or adapt and become more aggressive. Over time, the system filters for personality types that are comfortable with power games. This doesn't mean that India is uniquely flawed. This is the case in a lot of countries, a lot of developed countries even. But in a culture where hierarchy is accepted and image matters deeply, dominance becomes the most efficient strategy for social mobility. Not character, but dominance. And once that becomes normalized, power starts to feel like, how can I put it? The proof of worth. If a society trains you to respect hierarchy from childhood, teaches you to not question authority, prioritizes reputation over reality, and rewards dominance over decency, then what kind of psychological environment does that create? It creates pressure. Constant, invisible pressure. And that pressure keeps leaking into everything, into every aspect of our daily lives. Let's talk about chronic anxiety. One public failure, one viral clip, one social embarrassment. That's all it takes. That's why image management becomes exhausting. Social media obviously intensifies this. How? India has over 750 million internet users. Online identity is no longer optional. Online presence is now social currency. You're not just living your life, you're curating it. And when society values perception more than character, this anxiety skyrockets. Now let's talk about silence culture. When hierarchy is deeply ingrained in a society, speaking up feels risky. You see something wrong in your office, yet you stay silent. You see something unfair happening in your family, you adjust. You see something corrupt in your leadership, you rationalize. Not because you don't care, but because the cost of confrontation is always higher than the benefit of truth. And over time, silence becomes normal. But suppressed voices don't disappear, do they? They turn into resentment, anger, bitterness. Online debates turn hostile immediately. Political discourse becomes louder, and public figures gain traction through outrage. India is one of the largest social media markets in the world. Algorithms are known to amplify emotional intensity. Now combine that with a culture that unfairly respects power. In such a culture, you don't just get disagreement, you get polarization. Because the louder side always wins debates here. In a system that admires dominance, empathy doesn't look strategic. It looks naive. So what happens next? Men bottle up their emotions. Women overcompensate with toughness. Leaders hide the truth. And then we wonder why mental health crisis is such a big problem in our country. India reports millions dealing with anxiety and depression. And yet, stigma around mental health remains strong because vulnerability threatens image. And we can't have that, can we? When power becomes the goal instead of character, achievement feels different. You don't aim to be good. You aim to become untouchable. You aim to become powerful. Somebody that everybody fears. So even when someone becomes wealthy, famous, or influential, there's still insecurity. Because deep down, the respect isn't based on who they are. It's based on what they control and how strongly they can control. And whenever circumstances change, this control can disappear. Hence, they have to guard it aggressively, all the time. That's why powerful people often react defensively to criticism, because their whole identity is fused with their status. If hierarchy defines relationships, interactions stop being human. They become strategic. You network upward, and you don't give a shit about anybody whom you deem as beneath you. That's how people become stepping stones. And when that becomes normalized, trust erodes. You don't know if someone respects you or your usefulness. And that uncertainty breeds cynicism, polarized debates, aggressive online culture, distrust in institutions, image obsession, and fear of social rejection. All these things aren't random problems. They're all interconnected. They are all the psychological consequences of respecting power over character. We criticize corrupt leaders. We criticize arrogant bosses. But we also amplify them. We also feel that they are a class above us. We follow them. We defend them. We vote for them. But here's the hopeful part. Cultures aren't permanent. They evolve when enough individuals change what they admire. The shift doesn't start in parliament. It starts in living rooms. It starts in classrooms, in comment sections, in how you react when someone powerful is wrong.
Hey, now before you leave, can you just drop a like and leave a comment? So that's gonna help my channel grow a bit. It's gonna help with the algorithm and stuff. I'd really appreciate it if you did that.